If you ask 100 Corvette guys what their favorite Corvette is, I bet a majority of them will tell you a 67 big block. And this spectacular 1967 Corvette Convertible is flat out one of the best I've ever seen. It's won every major award such a car can win, including NCRS Top Flight, Bloomington Gold, VetFest Golden Spinner, which are collectively known as the Triple Crown. That means 3 different clubs, 3 different sets of judges from all over the country have had their eyes on this car and found it to be superior. The restoration is extremely well done. It runs and drives superbly. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. And it is just flat out gorgeous in every way. It does pack its original numbers matching L36 427 390 horse engine, a 4-speed, and a very long list of options. Let's get in and take a drive. Inside you have the traditional Corvette dual cockpit look. If you look closely, experts will spot that this is a factory air car, which is the center vent, and it's unique to the factory air cars. This one also is loaded up with power windows, leather seats, AM/FM stereo radio, telescoping wheel, and of course the side pipes and the aluminum wheels on the outside, as well as power steering and power brakes, which are nice on a car that you're going to drive regularly. Everything works. The air blows cold, the radio works, the clock's ticking away, keeping good time. It's a little cool today, but it's the first dry day we've had in about 2 weeks, so I thought it would be a good time to take a ride. So let's see what this feels like on the road. This awesome car always starts instantly. It's idling nicely at about 650 RPM. It's starting to warm up a little bit, but I'll take it easy till we've got some temperature in the engine. I don't want to beat on it. Everything's working. Let's take a drive. Very smooth clutch take up. You're not going to stall this car. There's an enormous amount of torque, and it doesn't weigh anything. So you'll never stall it. It rolls out just off idle. And like I said, I'm going to take it easy here for a while. Let it warm up. And of course, I'm not going to beat on this. It's got 600 miles on it. So there's just no reason to hammer it. But the thing I find most remarkable about this particular car, and we've probably sold 50 or 60 mid-year Corvettes, the reason this one's remarkable is that it's very much like the way I imagined they were when they were new. It's tight, it's smooth, it's quiet, it's comfortable, it rides well, there are no squeaks and rattles inside, and while we take that for granted today, with a Corvette, boy, that's really hard to do. These cars often lived hard lives, and it's really hard to restore that kind of factory tightness back into them. The other thing I like is that while it's a side pipe car, it's very livable. Most guys put those loud, obnoxious aftermarket pipes, and they think side pipes have to be loud to be cool, and that's just not the case. This one just burbles along. I can hear it outside the left door here. It's a nice V8 sound, but it is certainly not obnoxious in the least. Want a little more volume? It's just a squeeze of your right foot away, but when you're just cruising along here, we're going about 50 miles an hour, it's lovely. It's totally tolerable. It's not going to make your ears bleed. And if you want to take it on a trip, I would. And in the Corvette world, that's fairly remarkable. This particular car is equipped with the L36 427 cubic inch V8, which was rated at 390 horsepower. They offered a bewildering array of engines in 1967. There was the base 300 horsepower. There was the awesome L79 small block with 350 horsepower. There was the L36. Above the L36 was the L68, which was basically this engine with 3 two-barrel carburetors on top and rated at 400 horsepower. And both of those were hydraulic lifter engines. They were very docile. They make good torque, power steering, power brakes, air conditioning. Those are available. The next step up from there is the L71, which is the legendary 427 435. That's 3 carburetors. It's a fairly aggressive mechanical cam. Air conditioning is off the menu at that point. Next step up from there is the L89, which is basically the L71 with aluminum heads. And they didn't change the horsepower rating, but it's about 70 pounds lighter on the nose. And then, of course, there was the mighty L88 at the very top. And curiously, Chevrolet rated the L88 at 425 horsepower, which was 10 less than the 435, and they did that for a very specific reason. They did not want the public ordering L88s. For race purposes only, and nobody was going to be happy with that car on the street. So they knew that their buyers would spring for the most horsepower, and it was kind of a clever ploy. People figured it out pretty fast, but it seems that everyone understood there's no point in buying the L88 if you're just going to drive around. And I gotta admit, this car, with its very friendly street manners, is just a joy to drive. I mean, it's warmed up, there's infinite torque at almost any speed. Even though today's a nice cool day, it has no trouble staying cool. We have plenty of oil pressure. The battery's already topped itself off. This car is restored in its original color combination. It's called Silver Pearl, which I think is a great color on the 67. Silver's always looked right on the mid-years. And with the black Stinger hood, it looks extremely aggressive. Everybody recognizes this car as an apex predator on the street. And I think it's a mistake to look down at the L36 as just the base 427, because this sucker is wickedly fast. I mean, there's still nothing on the street short of a modern Corvette or muscle car that can keep up with it. By 67, the suspension, the brakes were extremely well sorted, and it works really well both as a car and as a performance machine. This car's rear end, which is, I believe, the original rear end, it codes out to a 370, but given how docile it is and how easily it cruises at highway speeds, my gut says that this car probably has maybe a 336 gear set in it now, probably after the restoration. Not a bad idea on a car you're going to want to drive, and of course with all that torque on tap, you don't need a lot of gear to get this car rolling. I think it's a nice compromise that really transforms the car's personality from being a little bit high-strung to fairly relaxed and able to be driven daily if you want. As you can see, the tack, I like the way the tack sort of bounces as it's driven by a cable from the back of the distributor. I sort of like seeing it bouncing away there, but it's holding pretty steady at about 700 RPM now that it's all warmed up. And the fact that this car runs so nice and cool is nice, because in the summertime, these big blocks, they put a lot of heat into the passenger compartment. This one doesn't seem to have that problem. It runs ice cold, and that's a testament to the guys who did the rebuilding. They really did a nice job. As I mentioned, this car has won every award you can win. NCRS Top Flight, Bloomington Gold, Vet Fest Golden Spinner. So it's had a lot of eyeballs over it. We have all the judging sheets, and it appears that any of the things that anybody noted on the judging sheets has been corrected. I'm going to unwind it a little bit here. Short shifting at about 3,500 RPM, and I'm only going about half or three-quarter throttle. Again, I'm not interested in beating in this car, but it is heroically fast. It sounds like God himself is chasing you and he's pissed off. And then you back off and it's just comfortable and quiet again. And if you're new to Corvettes or you're just shopping around, you don't understand how significant it is to find a car that's this easy to drive, this comfortable. It's very, very rare. You probably need a lot of seat time to appreciate those finer details, but it's really a night and day difference when you get a good one like this. One of the other things that I really like about this car is that it doesn't ask for a lot. These are extremely durable. The hardware is bulletproof. You put gas and oil in it and it'll outlast us all. And even on our broken pavement here, it really rides nicely. I would invite anyone who is familiar with these cars to come and try this one on for size if you're interested, because it's been an eye-opening experience for me. Everyone assumes, well, that's how they all were. They're all a little bit loose and sloppy, and they're all a little bit rattly. I don't think that's true anymore. And while some people may look at this car and say that's too much money, I think quality matters. You can buy a car with different specifications, maybe an L71 for about the same money. I don't think it's going to drive any better. This is about as good as a C2 Corvette can get. I'm absolutely delighted with it. The restoration being about 20 years old, it's holding up extremely well. There's no checking in the paint. There's no significant wear. There are no chips and scratches. The fiberglass work is excellent. So I wouldn't let that be a demerit. It's probably not quite fresh enough to compete with a fresh restoration. And admittedly, today's restorations are so much better than new that it's not really even a fair fight. Instead of being a lot better than new, this car's only a little better than new. And I think that's okay. I don't know how much you can see. The car tracks straight. I'm not making big corrections in the wheel. This car is fitted with a set of redline radials, which would probably cost you a few points in judging, but they really make a difference in terms of ride quality, handling, and if you really are going to use the car, I wouldn't change them back to bias plies. It really helps on pavement like this where there are a lot of truck ruts. It just sort of ignores them and tracks straight. What a fantastic car. God, I'm in love. We're rolling here at about 60. It's showing about 2,700 RPM, and my butt dyno compared with those numbers says 336 gears are probably what this car has. Again, very usable, very livable. And with that much torque on tap, there's really no need. It's got a 6,000 RPM redline. there's really no need to really rev the hell out of this engine. Side pipes are just music. The radio works, but who cares? I'm never going to use it. There's just something about a big block exhaling through those pipes. It's a wonderfully mellow baritone sound. It doesn't get raspy or poppy like a lot of the aftermarket pipes do. It's never painful. It's always musical. Again, this car, the guys who restored it got everything right. And to me, that matters. A lot of guys just care about most car, least money. What's the biggest dyno sheet I can point at with my buddies? But if you're someone who likes to drive like I do, this car is very, very special. And I suppose that brings us to one other point, and that's investments. I think professionally and personally, I think cars make poor investments, but it's unavoidable when talking about Corvettes. This car being a matching numbers, big block 67 convertible with a lot of options is certainly at a lot of people's wish lists. And the pedigree is strong. There is always the concern about fakes and forgeries, but quite honestly, no one's faking an L36. They'll fake an L71, they'll fake an L89, but no one's faking a 390 horse hydraulic cam motor. And in most cases, I'd say 99%, the fakes are fairly easy to spot. Restamps on the blocks. Some of them are good, but guys who know their stuff, you can spot them pretty well. We've gotten very good at it. We spend a lot of time. We take it very seriously. We understand why it's important to Corvette enthusiasts. So I don't have any concerns about this particular car's pedigree. I think it is everything it purports to be. This was a complete running, driving, usable car before the restoration. So none of the options was added during the restoration. This is how it was at least as recently as 30 years ago. And that's predating a lot of the nonsense that's happened in the Corvette market. So I don't have any concerns that this car is faked up or incorrect in any way. God, this is a great car. I understand why people fall in love with these. This one's going to be very hard to let go when it's time. So my takeaway from this is matching numbers, lots of options, fantastic high quality restoration. That's all great. But the drive is what makes this car truly remarkable. I don't care who you are, I don't care where you've been, I don't think you will drive a better Corvette than this. That's a big promise, that's big talk, but boy, is this car special. We're going to stop it here. Thanks for riding along with us. We'll see you next time.